Revisiting the James Harden trade retrospective.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Hello, I'm Keith Pompey, and this is my right-hand man, John Mitchell, and we are the co-hosts of Locked On 76ers. We got a lot to talk to y'all about today. A year ago, not today, but a year ago this week, is when James Harden basically said, Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never play for that man. And what happened is, when you look back, a lot has changed for the Sixers. The emergence since then that led to the emergence of Tyrese Maxey. It led to the Sixers being able to get some draft assets. It led to them to get some quality players that they could, trade. And a lot has changed. And now you look at it. A year ago, you thought like it was going to be doom and gloom. But now you look at it and you say they're going to be okay. So we'll talk about that in the first segment. Second segment, we'll talk about the 76ers offense a little bit. Things that what we think about, scoring, how they can score the ball. And then lastly, we touched on it a little bit yesterday, but we'll go over some of this schedule again. But Mitch, just looking back, what's your retrospective on the whole James Harden situation?
Yeah, man. It was like when you first heard it. I honestly, I was somewhat giddy, because I'm kind of not really a James Harden fan. James Harden, I call him empty calories. James Harden is going to get you a bunch of points, but he's never going to win. So, when I first heard it, I was like, okay, this will be something that prompts Daryl Morey to really get up and give him a chance and the opportunity to say, hey, man, I got to deal with this guy. Because lots of times Daryl Morey has made trades, it's because the whole Ben Simmons thing, they had to move him. And then, a year later, Daryl Morey put him in James Harden put him in a very untenable position with his rant over in China when he was selling his wine. So if you look at it.
No, I'm funny what you said it because he was awesome when he said that. It was actually a sneaker thing, but not.
Yeah, okay, sneaker wine. I mean, hey, good for him, man. Be that entrepreneur, that entrepreneurial spirit. But when you look at it, it was probably a year later, it was the best thing that could have ever happened to the 76ers. Gave them an opportunity to move on from him. And they weren't going to win anything with him because he had just come off another kitty cat performance in the playoffs. He was meow. He was kitty catting. And I think it was, and it allowed them to get salary cap space. And now a year later, you got a better player, a more complete player, and you have a better roster. And at the time, we were like, wow, if you turned on ESPN or the NBA or the NBA channel, you heard people say, people were kind of split on whether it was a good idea, but the mindset was that the 76ers had crashed, that the process, which I kind of believe is kind of over as well. But the belief was that this team is going to be, a jalopy very soon, and it's headed in the wrong direction. And now, lo and behold, you've got a backup center. You've got Paul George. You've re-signed Kelly Oubre, who was somewhat of a steal for you. So I kind of think it was the best thing that could ever happen to the at that time was the best possible thing. I kind of thank James Harden for going out there and doing the ass clown performance. I kind of give him a shout. You know what I mean?
Yeah, here's the thing. It's weird. Not weird, but like when you look at it, there are certain things, and it did work out. I mean, it was one of those things where you could argue that they would have had. I mean, of course, they would probably have to pay him a little bit, maybe, if he wanted to stay, if they decided to keep him and do that. But aside from that, they were talking about we're not trying to mess up our long-term future, right?
Right.
The guys like Tobias and all them other dudes, they weren't coming back, right? We just know that. And the thing is, it's like some of those trade assets that they did get, for Buddy Hield, which didn't really work out.
Right.
So, but the one thing that I will say is that when you looked at it a year ago, you did think that the 76ers were in trouble, right? Because you were saying to yourself, who's going to be the point guard? We love Tyrese Maxey, but he's a 2 guard. He's not going to, is he going to be able to step up and do what he did? Well, I'm here to tell you, Tyrese Maxey exceeded expectations. Now, I don't know if he exceeded his own expectations, but I don't think anybody outside of him and his pop thought that he could excel the way that he did if you're going to be realistic. So I think that's the one thing right there, because you realize that, okay, well, we don't need James who's hogging up the ball, right? We can get Maxey and this and that. And it enabled them to get other players. So, yes, meaning you could go get a Paul George, because now it's like you already got Maxey. So you can go and get a wing type of player to pair with him and Embiid, instead of oh, I got Harden, I got Maxey. Oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What else are we going to get? So I think from that standpoint, yes, it was a benefit. And you look at it now, and it's like the one thing you did say is you look at his playoff performances. You look at history. And, but I'll tell you what, this is a cautionary tale. When you're supposed to get that money, get that money. Don't say, oh, I'm going to do this and thinking I'm going to get something on the back end. Somebody going to give me something. Nah, bro. You left a lot of money on the table.
Yeah. One thing about the NBA, man, you are an independent contractor. You got to get yours.
Yeah.
Got to get yours.
Yeah. Exactly. That's the thing. So, I mean, but then when you look at it, the one thing that I will say is that, and it's just not him, it's kind of I think there was a lot of development that they had. Last year seemed rough, but at the same time, because of that, it enabled guys like Ricky Council to be able to flourish, to be able to develop, right? I mean, think about it. Think about this. The whole Kelly Oubre situation and James Harden, they don't get along at all. They were cool. They were acting like they were cool and everything. But they, they didn't say too much about each other, but they just don't get along.
Right.
And you wouldn't have Kelly Oubre if James Harden was still here.
Yeah. No,
so you understand what I'm saying? So it all, like you said, it all benefited. Everything benefited for the Sixers.
No, I agree, and it worked out well. It worked out well for them, and I'm glad to see that it did. And again, at the time, we all thought that it was going to be catastrophic, and it hasn't turned out to be that way. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Listen, right now, I want to talk to you all about Gametime. It's time to get out to the baseball stadium and check out the Phillies. They seem to be turning things around out the bank. And Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. You can get last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find and buy MLB tickets, and for every kind of event in your area. So it's not just baseball, it's the concerts that are coming to our city. So you can get views from all the seats in every venue. And the one thing that they guarantee is that the lowest price, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, etc. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Do it today, people. Definitely.
Do it today.
Today.
We want to thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen of the day. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On NBA podcast. There's no offseason in the NBA, and Locked On NBA provides daily basketball analysis from national and local experts in 30 minutes or less. No one keeps you informed and entertained as Locked On NBA. Available on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single solitary day.
You know, before we started the podcast or this episode, you were talking about how you think that this is going to be one of the most high-scoring teams in the NBA, you know, unstoppable offense.
Yep.
What gives you that confidence?
Well, I just think that they were averaging if I'm not mistaken, before Embiid started getting hurt. They were in the top 3, top 4, no, the top 5 in offensive and defensive statistics or ranking. And it dropped as the season went on. That obviously, you had those games where teams, were blitzing Maxey because Joel wasn't there. And I think that's going to make Maxey a better player. I know it's going to make Maxey a better player moving forward. And I think if you bring in a guy like Paul George, a guy who's going to can consistently give you 25, 20, whatever you need. And I also think that you bring in guys like, Reggie Jackson. He's mediocre 3-point shooter, but he can score. You bring in Eric Gordon, kind of, long in the tooth, but he can score. I think that they I think that, and I think Kelly Oubre, man. I think a guy like Kelly Oubre. You look at a guy like Drummond. They've got a lot more people they can turn to for offense when needed. And I also think that when and if Embiid is out for long stretches, you have guys who can step up. And it won't be as simple as just blitzing Maxey. So, I think they could possibly. I want to see them be better defensively. And I'm more concerned about how they play defensively. But I don't think offense will be a problem at all for this team, Keith.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a problem at all. But I'm also intrigued to see how it goes, like how they mesh together. Like we all assume that it's going to be a seamless situation. We all assume that, Paul George will come in and be like a third option, but he does have an offensive skill set to make him better than just a third option, right?
Yeah,
he can still make shots. So for me, like we all have an idea, like you think that Embiid is Embiid. He's going to be the guy. You know that. Maxey's going to be the guy who's having the ball in his hand, doing things. But Paul George is the guy that can do a lot of different things. And so to me, it's kind of like, like Harden wasn't really a point guard, but he could handle the ball. You know what I mean? He was like,
Yeah.
he was a combo, more like a 2-1, so to speak, right? But at the same time, they ran that offense through him. You know, Paul George could do the same thing. He's just not as good at it. But
Right.
at the same time, it's one of those things where he could take the pressure off of Maxey. He also can shoot. Now, again, let's face it, you got Kyle Lowry. You also have, like you said, Reggie Jackson. So, you know, in the perfect world, you want those two guys with the ball in their hands, setting everybody up. But I just want to see how Paul George is going to be utilized, right? We know what Embiid can do. We can know what that, because the problem is now, again, I think that it will work because Nick Nurse is a different coach. But the problem is, like, the last couple of years was that some people feeling like, you know, getting involved, right? You know what I mean? Now, if this is a free flowing offense, like one of those pick your poison type of thing, well, they're going to be tough to stop.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? Lots of times when we watch them, man, you know, when you watch them, lots of times they initiate the offense with Joel. When Joel brings the ball up court. And I mean, obviously, you know, the ball's not going to stay in his hands, but when you got guys like Tyrese and Paul George, you know, out there, and you know, Kelly Oubre, guys who can score. The more I think about it, I mean, I know I've been critical of them because I do think Paul, you know, in an ideal situation, I wanted Paul George to be 4 years younger. You know, I wanted him to be 4 years younger. But that's not the case. But he did play 70 games last year, so 70 plus games last year. So we'll see. I just think I'm thinking this is going to be a healthy year for the 76ers. But let's talk about.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, but let's talk about FanDuel. We can get to your point, Keith, when we get back after this break. I love the sports, and I love them so much that I never, ever want to see them stop. But right now, man, we're stuck in the doldrums. We got preseason football, which is like watching paint dry, and there's just not a lot going on. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. It's FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
Really, I mean, I was going to touch on something, but
go ahead, man. Go ahead.
No, it was just, you know, just saying.
Whenever I can pick your mind, Keith. Go ahead, man. Don't leave us waiting, man.
It's cool. It's just about, you know, 3 years younger, but at the same time, I feel like he's still an elite player. You know, the one thing is though, but I hope that he's an elite motivated player. And what I mean by that is, you know, we're talking about, let's face it, he has a knock on him where people think that he doesn't produce in big games, right? Him and Joel, they come out and say that, or they say Joel's often injured. So I want to see that if, you know, he could come out motivated and try to rewrite, you know, the narrative about him. So that's all I was about to say. So they're talking about Paul George. But here's the thing. When the Sixers schedule came out, there were several games that really stood out to me. You know, one was, of course, the Christmas Day game, because that's a barometer game.
Right.
But there's two other games that I really like. The Sixers go to Denver on January the 21st, I believe it is. And, you know, Joel Embiid has only been played in Denver one time. And to me, that's like a huge game. That's going to be on national TV. It's going to be a huge game to me from a standpoint of, we know the type of venom he's going to receive and everything like that. And I feel like, you know, that's going to be a marquee game just to go out there, go head to head with Nikola Jokic. You know, the thing about it is, there's some people who always say that, now, Joel didn't look good against him in the Olympics. partly because Joel wasn't in shape and stuff like that. But the crazy thing is, Joel gets criticized a lot about going up against Joker, even though he dogs him. Now he gets criticized because he doesn't go and play against Denver for various reasons, and people feel like he's ducking them because of the altitude, and he doesn't want to look bad, right? So you have that aspect. So to me, that's the big game. But also they have. I want to see the November the 12th game against the New York Knicks.
That's what I want to see.
That's the one because, and this is not just for the Sixers, for the Sixers fans. Like last time we saw the Knicks and the Sixers play, the Knicks fans turned the Wells Fargo Center into Madison Square Garden South. So to me, I want to see, are y'all going to let that happen again? Are y'all going to let that happen again? So there's certain aspects that, like, I want to see what Wembanyama can do when he plays Embiid again, right? So there's a lot of marquee matchups, but most of them are against that I want to see the Knicks, the Celtics. I want to see when Tobias Harris comes back to town, even though I expect Detroit to get spanked. But I want to see what type of reception Tobias is going to have, and I want to see if Tobias is going to want to take it to the Sixers for not re-signing,
or if he's going to go stand in the corner. I think. I'm most interested now in watching the matchups with the Knicks. You know, when the New York fans came down here, they were just obnoxious asses, man. I was in the building for two of those games, and it's funny. You would think that granted, 76ers were going 40 plus years without a championship. They were going 50 plus years without a championship, so they're even thirstier than the 76ers fans are. But I do want to see that. I also want to see what Wemby, because the Sixers, he must have, even though he wasn't guarding Joel exclusively in that game when Joel put up 74 or whatever, 70, 74, whatever it was Joel put up on him, 70. I think Wemby's game is going to take huge steps, and he's going to remember that. And obviously the game with the Joker, it's like, Joel, please show up healthy and be there, because you really kind of get tired of the the whole. It was really embarrassing the way that game was even covered, with the media saying, Joel Embiid's deliberately not playing because he doesn't want to pay Joker. Because somebody out in Denver actually wrote that, and I was like, come on, man, you can't call yourself a professional journalist. The man just put up. I think that was the same week he had just put up 70. It was right before that road trip out west, and right before he got hurt.
It was the next game. It was the next game it was the second. It was he played it. And next game was Indiana. That's when he got hurt.
Yep.
And then that. Yep.
Yep. So and that's a game that you hope they'll guard each other. And Joel's gotten the best of him here in Philly, but it's like it's time to go on the road, man. This is a season that people have high expectations. And so this is a high expectation game. So I would expect Joel to be there and to go to war with Joker.
Yeah, we'll see. It should be interesting, though.
It should be interesting.
It really should. It really should.
Excitement's going to build for this team. I they got reason to be excited. They don't have a bunch of spare parts. They got elite parts, and it's championship was doable this year.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But look, y'all, I want to thank y'all for listening. We want y'all to have a blessed day. Make it a blessed weekend. And we'll be back next week to talk more about your 76ers. Peace.
Your team every day.